Okay. This public meeting of the Board of Education's Policy Committee for March 30th, 2026 is called to order. Good afternoon and welcome. We're going to begin with a discussion. Sorry, I'm a little bit discombobulated today. We're going to have a discussion about the review of the community policies in our board policy manual. As you recall, we are to, I'm sorry, we should do introductions first. Do you want to start with introductions? Sure.
Michelle Chase Miller, board member.
Michelle DePass, Policy Committee Chair.
I'm Nora, and I'm a District Student Council representative from Grant High School.
Emily Courtnage, Senior Legal Counsel.
Kara Bradshaw, Executive Assistant.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Stephanie?
Yeah, hi, Stephanie Engelsman. Sorry, I'm appearing virtually.
Well, thanks for being here. So we'll first start out with public comment. And Kara, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do. We have 2 people in person and 2 virtual. We'll start with the folks that are in person.
Yeah, please. Great.
Katie Price and Gregory Benison.
I have a niece named Katie Price. Yeah.
All right. Is this on? There we go. Hi, my name is Katie Price. I am a former educator, and my daughter Eleanor and my son Brandon both attend Odyssey. Both of my kids have asthma, and right now my mom is going through cancer treatment, so our family is also supporting her through that process. So in my family, talking about air quality is not abstract. It's something that we think about every day. And when someone you love is immunocompromised or has asthma, respiratory illness and indoor air pollutants are not small things. What might be just a cold for most kids can mean breathing treatments, missed school, and late night visits to the emergency room for a child with asthma. For families like mine, the quality of air in our classrooms doesn't just affect what happens at school. It affects whether we can safely stay connected and support the vulnerable family members who live with us at home. That's why I support adding clear health-based goals for indoor air to the climate crisis response, climate justice, and sustainable practices policy. 6 to 12 air changes per hour has long been recognized as an effective level of clean airflow for preventing virus transmission in hospitals, with 12 air changes per hour being the gold standard. But achieving that 12 air changes per hour through ventilation from our HVAC systems alone would be expensive and energy intensive. But with new understanding, improved air filtration designs, and updated approaches, reaching that 10 to 12 effective air changes per hour is doable. Pairing a ventilation goal for the HVAC system with an in-room air filtration goal would give the district a flexible framework for achieving excellent air quality. Using the HVAC ventilation together with the in-room air filtration is an incredibly cost-effective and energy-efficient way to provide students and teachers with truly healthy air. And that would mean something real: healthier classrooms, fewer missed days, and more stability for families. For families like mine and many of us here at PPS, this isn't just nice to have. It's the difference between that constant risk and being able to breathe a little easier.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thanks so much.
I forgot to mention, when you just state your name, please, and you'll have spell your last name, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, hello, I'm Dr. Greg Benison. Last name is spelled B like boy, E-N-I-S-O-N. I am a parent of 2 children at 2 students at Robert Gray Middle School, where I'm also the PTA treasurer. By profession, I'm a biochemist and a software engineer. I want to talk today about, to quote some words of Dr. Richard Corsi, who is the Dean of Engineering at my alma mater, which is University of California at Davis. And Dr. Corsi was also, he chaired the National Academy of Sciences consensus report in 2024 on the health risks of exposure to fine particulate matter in indoor air. Dr. Corsi said, to quote, "I do not believe that 4 to 6 air changes per hour in schools is sufficiently aspirational. He has recommended instead for a building of the future should aim for 10 equivalent air changes per hour. And he recommends a way of doing it by using a combination of ventilation from HVAC systems and in-room filtration. When PPS builds new buildings and installs new HVAC systems, a health-based target of 6 effective air changes per hour from the HVAC system is achievable for classrooms, school offices, and similarly sized spaces. The district has essentially achieved this target of 6 air changes per hour in Kelly Elementary School and in the modernization of Franklin. Adding in-room filtration is then an easy, cost-effective, and energy-efficient way to get from 6 to 8, 10, or perhaps even to the gold standard of 12 air changes per hour. So we at Safe Indoor Air for Oregon Schools would like to invite each of you to join us in visiting a PPS classroom where teachers are already getting this high standard of air quality for themselves and their students. Dr. Greathouse has reached out to Directors DePass and Engelsman about visiting one of these classrooms. And there are teachers who would love to host Director Chase Miller as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We've got people online. I see Council Member Koyama Lane.
Hi, everyone. Tiffany Koyama Lane for the record. Last name Koyama space Lane. Hello, wonderful board directors, committee members. I'm a mom of both a 3rd grader and a 4th grader, one of who has a chronic respiratory disease. I've also been a public school teacher for almost 2 decades. I'm a PBS teacher currently on political leave, and most recently taught 3rd grade at Sunnyside Environmental School for the past 7 years. Before that, I taught at Fabian School. And like Ms. Price and Dr. Venison, I'm a supporter of safe indoor air for Oregon schools. When teaching my students, I've spent full days in classrooms with low ventilation rates and high temperatures. You know, a lot of these old buildings keep the heat in. These conditions have a direct impact on students. Hot, stuffy classrooms affect their ability to focus. And honestly, it's really hard to get any learning done when it's really hot and stuffy. A lack of clean, fresh air affects really how well they could get through a week, also without absences from illnesses. So I want to speak in support of adding indoor quality goals to the climate and sustainability policy. In Portland, we lead with our values, especially when standards at the federal level or the state level fail to protect health, equity, and our environment. PPS's climate policy reflects our values by setting high goals for reducing our carbon footprint. Healthy indoor air is similar. Minimally acceptable ventilation requirements leave classrooms at 2 or 3 air changes per hour, and such low ventilation rates allow viruses to spread easily and leave too many students and staff without air quality that they need to thrive. So when the district installs new HVAC systems, 6 air changes is a good foundation, and adding air purifiers on top of that push rooms closer to 12. PPS's new buildings like Lincoln and Fabian, where I've taught, have also had some ongoing HVAC problems. Having air purifiers in those newer buildings can give rooms backup with equipment teachers and volunteers can manage when facilities is stretched thin, which happens. Setting these practical targets as board level policy goals help ensure direction across the system while still allowing flexibility in how and when those high goals for healthy airflow are achieved over the coming years. Thank you so much for your time. I really respect and appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Julie. Julie, can you say your last name and you can start whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Julie Wong, W-A-N-G, she, her pronouns. My son attends Harrison Park Middle School, and he has a physical disability that makes him more vulnerable to viral infections. As you know, PPS just completed a $40 million remodel of Harrison Park and installed brand new HVAC system. And while we feel very fortunate to be in a school that has climate control, the staff and students at the school do not appear to be avoiding illnesses. We don't know how the new HVAC system is because an air quality report has not been provided since the installation of the new system. But a few of the parents have asked for the air purifiers to be turned on in the classrooms. But it appears that the staff are under the impression that the new HVAC system is sufficient and the air purifiers are not needed. We cannot continue to try to remedy this on a school-to-school basis. The students at Harrison Park have siblings who attend other schools with insufficient ventilation and air filtration, and they're passing illnesses to their members of their family. District-wide policy on minimum air changes per hour and air purifier use would make it possible for my son to continue attending school in person safely. Even with updated policies to address indoor air quality infrastructure, we need the adults in charge in classrooms to understand the importance of turning on the air purifiers when the classroom is occupied. My understanding is that the current PAT contract stipulates that the administration cannot dictate certain conditions in classrooms, and air purifier use is one of them. This needs to change. All students deserve to breathe clean air, and their health should not be jeopardized because adults misunderstand the science around indoor air quality. Considering what the district and the wider community is facing, this policy change may seem trivial, but what it boils down to is that sick kids don't learn well, and sick educators impact massive numbers of students. We can implement solutions that make financial and environmental sense by making wise investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everyone for public comment?
Yes.
So thank you for your testimony. I just want to acknowledge that I think most of the schools for Southeast Quadrant, except for maybe we got some from the west side as well. I was just curious, geographic mapping. Thank you for your testimony, and we'll take this under consideration. I appreciate you being here. We're now going to talk about public contracting rules. They're out for public comment. At the last committee meeting, we reviewed and discussed changes to the public contracting rules and recommended those be moved to the full board for the first reading. And we had the first reading on our March 10th meeting, and it's been posted on the district's website, and it's open for public comment. To my knowledge, we have not received any public comment, and the public comment, I believe, is closed tomorrow at the end of the day. The board is scheduled to vote on the revised public contracting rules at the April 14th board meeting, so not tomorrow, but in 2 weeks from tomorrow. Committee members, are there any questions or comments at this time? No.
Not from me.
Director Engelsman?
No, not for me.
Thank you. So we will have a second reading on April 14th, and the full board will take a vote at that time. Moving on to the community policies, as I've shared previously under board policy 1.70.020P, we are supposed to review all board policies on a 4-year cycle. If you review the existing policies, you'll see that many of them have not been reviewed in more than 4 years, and some of them as 18 years, 10 years. I've asked staff to bring forward sections of the policy manual for the committee's review. And this is a significant undertaking, and it'll likely take the remainder of the year to complete. And my goal is and hope is that we would be able to complete those reviews. To make the work more manageable, staff has prepared initial red line drafts that focus on non-substantive updates, including formatting changes, correction of typographical errors, consistent capitalization. For example, board chair, if it's capitalized, it'll be capitalized throughout the policy manual. Updated department names and more inclusive language, such as replacing he or her with they or them. In addition, staff have reviewed comparable policies at Salem-Keizer School District and Beaverton. They've reviewed comparable policies at Beaverton, which is modeled on OSBA, that's the Oregon School Board Association policies, and Salem-Keizer School Districts, and have identified differences based on those comparisons. Our original plan, when we started out here, was to start with Section 1, just start at the beginning of the board manual, school board, since it contains relatively few policies and it didn't appear to require public engagement. However, following discussion at our board's retreat, it's clear that there's interest in broader governance development work on our board, and it should be reflected in our policies. So I think it's better to have that work progress with the full board. And with that in mind, we then started with and have started with section 7 called community, with one exception. Because we've spent considerable time in recent years reviewing and revising policy 7.10.020P, district-wide advocacy and fundraising, this policy is not scheduled for review except for those changes in consistency in the language. So updating the language, modernizing the language. I think it makes sense to go through each policy and first review the suggested edits to see if there are any other issues or questions that come up for you that we can talk through. Once we've agreed on those revisions to a policy, we can then refer it to the full board for the first reading. Is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Not at this time, but happy to answer questions about any of the red lines.
Okay. So, it'll give me just a moment to reorient here. I haven't received any input from board members about changes, and if you'd like, I am very happy to walk us through each instance. Let's see. Okay, if we can start in board book with 7.10.010P, school site councils, red line. Also, I want to welcome Issa. Yeah. Issa Taylor. Do you want to introduce yourself? Sorry, you're just jumping right into it. We've never met, so.
Yeah.
I'm Michelle. I'm the chair of the policy committee.
Nice to meet you. My name is Issa Taylor. I'm one of the district student council representatives for Ida Wells High School. And sorry I'm late. I had a meeting that ran a little late at school.
That's okay. We're glad to have you here. We are. Has somebody shown you how to get onto board book and get oriented there, or? Not yet. Okay, because let's make sure we do that so you can follow along. We were just going to start on looking at the school site council's red line. That's policy number 7.10.010P. We also had our other student rep had a question about an addition to this board policy, and we have Ms. Courtnidge here. Did you want to share what you were thinking with the audience?
Yeah, so in section 2C5 of 7.10.10P, it states that PBS may designate other types of members that may include students, business leaders, or members of the community at large. Individuals are selected by the site council. And more directly in this document, it mentions the parents, the teachers, and other things. And I was wondering if it would be possible to add a value statement about involving students more directly in site councils, because I know a lot of student governments, their focus is more on school dances and other various fundraising events, but I think having a more direct policy change, even if it's not a mandatory one, having schools be aware of that could be useful.
So that might be a question for you, is if we were to add a value statement to this policy around school site councils, I'm not sure where it would go.
Yeah, it could either be at the top of the policy and the statement of purpose, or it could be right where Nora mentioned. We could add that, a subsection 6, or even in that same subsection 5, just say something along the lines of, the board actively encourages student participation on site councils, or however you'd like to say that.
Does that get at your purpose?
Yeah, totally.
I don't necessarily have a preference, but I kind of like that it would be in 5, where you're already looking at a red line. But I'm going to start at the top of this document. I appreciate you bringing that forward. You've already added value to our committee. So this one, if we're looking at page 1 under section 2, B, the duties of each site council, instead of shall is crossed out and will include in the bulleted number. Are we okay moving forward with that one correction?
This is Stephanie. I just want to pipe in. I know I brought this up the last time, and we got a document from legal that there is in fact a difference between the words the legal words shall and will, which was my worry. And so legal had suggested that somewhere in our policies that we include a sentence that puts forward our intentions that we are meaning the word shall when we use the word will. And so I haven't seen that sentence added anywhere yet. And so I remain uncomfortable with sending these changes forward until I see that, that, I don't know what it would be, like some policy or some sentence or some language somewhere that incorporates all of our policies and anywhere that this change is made.
So are you proposing that wherever in our manual it says shall, and it's crossed out now to say will, that we have some type of a disclaimer or some kind of sentence that covers all policies or would we just strike the red line and just put shall throughout? Which again, I think part of what we're trying to do is modernize the language.
I understand that. At the last meeting that we talked about this, I just raised the fact that in layperson's terms, there is a difference between shall and will, but in the legal world, shall means something very different than will. And then I asked legal to sort of give us an update on that. And we got a memo about it where legal, I'm looking for I don't know where it is at this point because I didn't assume I would have to bring it up right now, but somewhere in our email is a letter from legal saying the best way to move forward would be to include a line somewhere that says everywhere in our policies that we are changing the word from shall to will, we actually mean shall, but we're making it will. And so I'm just re-bringing that up because there is in the legal world, it seems silly perhaps to non-lawyers, but there is a difference between shall and will. And so I just am not comfortable with modernizing it without looking at both unintended consequences and potential legal issues in the future. So
I'm not sure how we would we do that at the front of the policy manual, or do you have any ideas of how we would take both achieving the modernization of the language while addressing Director Engelman's concern?
Yeah, I think I would suggest it occur just once, not in every policy, and it should therefore occur in the Section 1 policies, and in particular, we have a policy about policies, so that seems like it might be an appropriate place to put it. I know that all those changes are currently on hold for the reasons you previously discussed.
That's correct. So, Director Engelsman, it would be in the policy on policies, and the recommendation is that it would appear once and not throughout the whole document. And would you be okay moving forward just on page 1 of the first policy that we're looking at, moving forward with that condition, knowing that we're not getting to Section 1 yet? That's upcoming work, and it might even be, not. We have to get through this section, and I'm not even sure what's next. Section 5.
So
I think we're ready to do Section 2 after this.
Section 2. Okay, so it's just a matter of timing and what your comfort level is.
So I would suggest that we just move to Section 1 to just include this sentence and do just that part before we go and dig into the entire Section 1. But I don't think that we should make this change, especially given the research and the recommendation. I don't think we should make this change without making that change as well. Timing is critical in the law. Sometimes a matter of hours can make a difference. So to move forward with changes today where we are making a legal change that has consequences potentially while we are aware of potential consequences without simultaneously fixing them, I think is we shouldn't do it and it could potentially be negligent. So I would say if we are going to move forward with this will shall, which I can get on board with if we have the sentence in the policy that incorporates every time it is. But I think just moving forward today and saying we'll get to that later is something that could very much come and cause us unnecessary and unforeseen problems in the future, and we should just not open ourselves up to that.
Okay, what if I'm happy to take the policy on policies. Again, the reason that we pulled it was because there was a strong desire to do that as a full board. And so I'm mixed because I want to move this work forward on the name changes. Would you be okay moving forward on the name changes, which again would go to the full board with that caveat?
Sorry, which name changes?
You want to add the sentence that says everywhere it says shall, we will say that it means will. And that we would put that in the policy of policies in section 1. Would you be okay moving forward if we put the section 1 policy on policies on our committee agenda?
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah. As long as we, yes, I'm.
I mean,
totally
to
fine with
schedule
that.
it and get it like as an item to discuss on our agenda.
Well, I mean, it would need to happen. I would say if this is going to the full board, we would just send that to the full board. I don't want to have this voted on because things happen and sometimes things can just get overlooked or forgotten or not accomplished. And so if this is being sent to the full board, I mean, it's literally going to be a one sentence that the whole board can spend 5 minutes talking about. I mean, it shouldn't take long, but I think it should happen simultaneously if we're making these changes, to just do it in a way that is legally sound and not rushed.
Okay, I agree with that. Okay, so I would like to finish this. We'll talk about the will shall, moving that forward, but we have other language that needs to be updated, including on B, section 4, the administration of grants in aid for the professional development of teachers and classified rather than district, that's redlined, and PPS instead. It reads teachers and classified PPS employees rather than just teachers and classified district employees. So we're scratching the word district, adding the word PPS, the acronym rather. That's on page 1. We're still on page 1. Also on page 1, section C, unless the board, the words of education are redlined, scratched out, deleted. It says the Board of Education is scratched out, and it's going to read now unless the board. And that's, again, consistent throughout all of the policies that we're reviewing. So it shortens Board of Education to board. Moving along, there's several will shalls. On page 2, under C5, again, the district is redlined, crossed out. In its place, PPS. PPS may designate other types of members that may include students, business leaders, or members of the community. And that's where we'll add that sentence. Part 6 is entirely scratched out. Are you okay with that? Licensed educators and parent members may not compose more than half of the membership of a site council.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. When I was flipping back and forth looking, I logged myself out of board book and now I can't get back in. So I'm trying to reset my password, so that's why I've been quiet. But
okay.
Also,
do you want us to give you a minute? We don't mind waiting.
Yes, although I guess I can ask my question. Now I've lost where I was trying to log back in. My question was going to be why are we changing that? I thought the purpose of the site council, I mean, I've never been on one. I thought the purpose was to try to have a broad array of people who are involved. So I guess I'm just curious what the reasoning behind this red line is.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. It's really just duplicative language. The licensed educator, not more than half the members will be licensed educators is addressed in subsection 1, and not more than half of the members will be parents is addressed in subsection 2. So it
Okay.
just duplicates.
Thank you. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I couldn't poke around. Oh, it's not letting me back in.
It looks like the next change is a numbering.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. I will
Yeah,
let you
a
know
numbering.
if I need you to pause. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
I'll call out anything that's not. Are you okay moving forward where it says district and instead crossing out district and saying PPS?
No, I'm okay with all of this. I apologize for asking that question. It sounds like a good change, given that it's duplicative.
Yeah, thank you. And I didn't know why that was either, but I appreciate that. The next change is under section, it looks like 4. It was D4. I don't know what the new numbering is. It adds the word "and" at the end of the paragraph. Develop plans to reach student performance goals, utilizing current educational research, professional development of staff focused on research-based effective instructional practices, and staff and community input. And 5, develop and utilize a communication plan for involving the community in planning for school improvement and for informing the community about the plan and its progress. It's tying sections 4 and 5 together with an "and." The next change is under section E. Rather than schools council, we're scratching schools and adding site council. And that is that for that one, our very first 7.10.010P. So I think the action item for me is to add adding that sentence in the policy of policies, and I will add that to our agenda for our next meeting. Our next one is district-wide advocacy and fundraising policy. There's a red line in board book. Were you able to get in, Director Engelsman?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So we're looking at page 1 of 7.10.020P. And in the first paragraph, again, the only change is rather than saying the district, instead it's going to read PPS encourages. Section 1, local school foundations and school or program fundraising. Instead of reading Board of Education, it now just reads board. There's a deletion talking about donations for staff positions collected by local school foundations between July 1st, 23 and July 30th, 2024, which is outdated. It doesn't apply anymore, so that entire paragraph in section 2 is deleted. Under section 4, other requirements, there are a couple of instances of where shall is deleted and will is inserted, so that will apply to the policy of policies. In section 5, other provisions for purposes of this policy, rather than district is deleted, and staff and contracted staff. Staff is added and district is deleted. Contracted and staff are both capitalized. That's the change that we're proposing. In section 2, paragraph 2 of section 5, in the very first sentence, the designated district foundation, we've added the word wide. So it reads now, the designated district-wide foundation. We've also removed legal reference ORS 332.107. And that is all. Those are the changes for the policy on district-wide advocacy and fundraising. Again, it's a language update and a deletion of language that expired in June of 2024. The next one is 7.10.030P. And oh my gosh, there's a lot of changes on this one. Board policy, district foundation, the entire first 3 paragraphs are deleted. And I don't know, I want you to maybe read this on our own. The red line is, it starts at section 2, but it's actually going to be section 1.
I do wonder, I noticed when I was reading these in advance, I did notice that is there a typo? I don't know that tax exempt corps are section 510, aren't they 501? Is that how they become 501c3s? Or are they section
That's a
510?
great question. I don't know, but I know there is a tax exemption under 501. What I don't know if there's also a section 510. But do you see where that is under?
I do. We'll
Yeah.
double check that.
Okay,
I
thank
believe,
you.
so a lot of this is language adapted from the OSBA policy and sort of copied over, but I will definitely double check that section.
Okay, that would be it would be very easy to transpose those 2 numbers.
Mhm.
So the language is talks about the purpose. Basically, PPS and its students have been supported by families and community, and it talks about the foundation, sets up that the foundation is governed by a board of directors whose selection, membership, and functions will be set forth in the foundation's bylaws. The foundation will remain independent, and upon dissolution or withdrawal of recognition of the foundation's net assets will be distributed pursuant to the Articles of Incorporation.
So I've never seen those articles of incorporation. I'm guessing nobody else has, maybe legal has. What do they say in the event it's dissolved? Where does the money go?
That sounds, are you able to address that?
I am not at this time. I've not read the foundation's materials.
I think we can direct staff to find an answer for us and share those articles.
Is item E a new addition to this policy? Or was it said in the previous policy in a different way?
Let's see what it says up here. I don't see a mention of articles of incorporation in this language that has been striked through. Just that the foundation will be operated in conformance with established district-wide foundation principles, governed by a board of directors whose selection, membership, and functions will be set forth in the foundation's laws. So I think that's a question we need to know what happens upon dissolution or withdrawal.
If I can speak up for a second, the original policy was from 2002, so it predated the establishment of the district-wide foundation, and so some of this update is to borrow OSBA language, and their language spoke to dissolution, but we have specific articles that address it, so that is the reason for that change.
Okay. So we just need to share out those articles of incorporation. It sounds like fun reading. And then the last thing is that's striked is legal reference ORS 294.395, 294.565, and ORS 332.197. So that's apparently they don't apply.
They either don't apply, have changed since original adoption, or are of very tenuous relevance. So I checked each of those references as I reviewed these policies.
Thank you. So we're just cleaning the page up, literally cleaning the page.
So before we move on, I just heard you mention to send out the articles of incorporation and fun reading. I would actually prefer that legal tells us what the articles of incorporation says about distributing assets in the event of dissolution or withdrawal. That's a very critical piece to understand. So I would ask that staff look at that and also answer the question of what happens if the foundation is dissolved or withdraws. What happens to the assets?
Yeah, so we'll have them do an analysis and present
Thank
something
you.
to us to spare us from that, from the reading. Thank you for that. I'm going to move ahead. And I see that I didn't get to read the OSBA Foundation policy, but I guess I can go back. The next one is policy number 7.10.040, parental and family involvement in support of academic achievement. And I'm guessing there's nothing substantive here but I can tell by the page layout, it's very old.
We are recommending a rescission of this
Okay.
policy. It's out of date, references rescinded or replaced policies, and its subject matter is largely covered in the newer site council policy that we've discussed, as well as the volunteer policy that is next in line.
Okay. So this is a rescission. Is there any discussion? Our next policy is 7.20.020P, volunteers. I'll let you read it. It's there's quite a bit of there are quite a few deletions in that first paragraph. There's an additional added second and third paragraph with looks like bullet points underneath that. I could either read through it, or we could, if you've already read it, if you have any comments about it.
I read it. I don't have any comments.
Okay. So it's, what about you, Director Inglesman?
I don't think I have any comments on it. I'm just rereading it again.
So again, it looks like it's modernized language, talks about volunteers, and the board recognizes that families and community members volunteering their services can provide valuable assistance. Every effort should be made to recruit and organize family and community volunteer resources in a manner which will ensure maximum contribution to the welfare and educational growth of students. It talks about which policies apply. 5.10.064P, professional conduct between adults and students. Policy 5.10.140P, fingerprinting and criminal history verification. 7.40.101AD, that's the administrative directive regarding anti-harassment community business. And finally, policy 3.20.031AD, that's the administrative directive, secured schools. Finally, PPS reserves the right to place and remove volunteers from service in PPS schools. There's
So
one legal reference that's removed, I'm assuming because it's not relevant. And this was last adopted in 2002, or amended rather.
The one piece of discussion I had was, I know that we're moving next to section 5, which is listed in sub 3A and B. I guess this question is for legal, because I haven't looked at those as to whether we're going to be, like, how we will update those. Here's my concern. I don't know whether those need to be updated, and my concern, my worry about striking sub big V 5 and a big 6 without simultaneously working on A and B, which may need to be worked on. We may have a gap, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not doing a very good job in saying it. I don't know that 5.10.064P and 5.10.140P are currently satisfactory to encompass everything that we are striking in V and VI, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And so to make sure that we are not striking 5 that says all volunteers shall complete a criminal history verification form in a district or school volunteer, blah, 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 which is a very important piece of that policy. I would want to know that we are satisfied with 510-064 and 510-140 so that we're not leaving gaps. You know what I mean?
Yes. So 510-140 speaks to the fingerprinting and criminal history verification requirements, both to staff and to volunteers and to contractors. So the criminal history verification process is addressed in that policy.
So we're totally fine with 510-140 then? It sounds like we won't need to change that one at all.
I'm sure there will be at least a few of these non-substantive changes and updates that we're doing with each of them. But as far as I'm aware, we are up to date with our current volunteer background checking processes in alignment with that policy.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a few moments just to look at it before let's see, PPS. Student.
Did you want us to link 5.10.140? There's no red lines on it because it's not up yet.
Right. No, I don't. Email, social media group text, in person. Maybe I missed it. I just wanted to make sure that we still have sufficient. It sounds like from legal that we still have a sufficient requirement for criminal history checks. I guess I would just ask staff to look into this and confirm by the next meeting that yes, 510-64 and 510-140 as they currently stand do have everything in it that we would need so that we're not making changes here without adding protections and changes elsewhere.
I can read to you that portion of 510-140 right now. It says volunteers for the district who the district determines may have direct unsupervised contact with students will be required to undergo an Oregon criminal history verification through the Oregon Department of Education. And so I think that covers our background check process. And I think that the names of the forms here in this statement are also not up to date. So that was another reason to strike it in the Section 7 policy.
I do have a quick question. Sorry, I missed that. Did you read unsupervised contact?
Yes.
Okay, because unsupervised contact seems to be contrary to the new 2. And so it says volunteers will operate under the direction of staff member within an open public place and should be within sight or sound of a staff member while working with students. That seems directly in conflict with unsupervised contact. So are we allowing unsupervised contact or not? Because these two are now in conflict.
We are not allowing unsupervised contact, but we do require a background check because, well, for a lot of reasons, but concern that should any kind of unsupervised contact ever happen, even though it should not be permitted, we need to have some assurances of the safety of our volunteers.
Totally agree, but the policy, now I can't find where I read it. Can you read me that sentence again? Because it sounds like we have a current policy that says, that's essentially in absentia, allowing unsupervised contact. Can you read me that again, please?
Yeah, and this policy really follows the Oregon law, which requires fingerprint-based background checks. So not just the kind of background check we do for volunteers, but a fingerprint-based check for anybody who may have direct unsupervised contact with students. That's staff, that's contractors, and that's volunteers. So that's why the language reads that way. So volunteers for the district who the district determines may have direct unsupervised contact with students will be required to undergo an Oregon criminal history verification through the Oregon Department of Education.
Okay, I'm just telling you that I think we need to very quickly look at that, because that to me, by using the word volunteer and not saying staff or contractors, or frankly, I don't know why contractors would have unsupervised contact with kids. I think we have a gap. I think we have a policy that says here directly, student safety is paramount. Will operate in an open public space within sight or sound, working with students, volunteers would never be asked. And now we have 51064 that I think quite on its face clearly says that there can be unsupervised contact. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. So I think we should make it a priority to at least look at that one. I understand that we don't need sub 5 anymore because I think that is in 51064, but I think 51064 has a lot of uncertainty and really suggests that unsupervised contact is okay, which is directly in conflict, which is what I think is a good addition in this one. So I do think we have to flag that, and I'm worried about that.
Okay. Does that sound, so you want to clarify that sorry, I'm off my page 2. 5.10.064 and 5.10.140 are both analyzed, reviewed, so that they're not in direct conflict with the changes we're making in the board policy around volunteers. And it's specifically in regard to unsupervised volunteers.
Yeah, because I think I'm happy with all the changes we're making here, but my questions about getting rid of sub 5, which I'm now comfortable with getting rid of sub 5 because clearly it's in 51064, but in reading 51064, I now have other concerns that we have a policy that might be very old that is implicitly or perhaps even explicitly allowing for unsupervised contact, which this new policy that we're amending clearly says should not happen. So that's all.
Yeah, I understand, and it's actually 510.140. We're talking about the fingerprinting
Oh, good.
and criminal history.
Okay.
And
That's why I couldn't find it in 51064. Okay,
And-
I never got to 140.
along with all other Section 5 policies that will need a look as we get to Section 5 for sure.
Okay, so for the purposes of this, though, do we want to hold this particular one back before we've had a chance to look at the Section 5 policies? I guess my goal is to get through this section so we can start on the next section with the exception of the adding the policy on policies to our next meeting. So I'm just trying to figure out the cadence of the work
Sure.
here.
If I understood Director Engelsman, I think she's happy with this new language and just wants clarification of Section 5.10.140 when we
140.
get there.
Okay, great, awesome. Okay, so I'm just looking forward to putting that little amended 2026 down at the bottom of the policy. So we'll move along. The next one is, I'm sorry, I've lost my place here. Citizen community-sponsored contests. Is this another one that is selected for rescission?
Yes, that was our recommendations. It's out of date to a couple of us who read it. Its purpose wasn't entirely clear, and we don't feel that it was necessary.
Okay, are we okay as a committee moving forward on this one? It also uses the word citizen, which is even itself kind of an old-fashioned use of the word. And that was our final, so citizen/community sponsored contest is recommended for rescission. And if I don't hear from anybody, we can go ahead and move that one forward. So it sounds like I didn't make a list. We've agreed to move most of the policies forward, except for those 2 that we have additional questions on. And once we've agreed on those revisions, we can refer it to the full board for first reading. On to future topics. committee members, except for the policy and policies, are there any topics we would like to consider for future policy committee meetings? And we have a couple of things. We've got the climate policy. We've been asked to take a look at that. That policy is doesn't really address temperature, climate, indoor air quality. It's very carbon reduction heavy. But are there any other topics from committee members you'd like to discuss?
I was waiting, didn't want to interrupt anybody. I would like to discuss, we had that public comment from that father, I think. I know him through professionally, Ed LeClaire. He was talking about a PPS policy supporting biking, walking, transit. And I know that Oregon Walks is also working really hard to do this for the better of students learning. I could put my hand on students learning, getting to school, all these things, traffic, air quality, everything. So I would love to have a conversation about whether we have a policy. I reached out to Mr. LeClaire and asked him if he would be willing to maybe take a first stab at it. If I suspect that he has looked at other places around. So I would like to maybe talk about that and see if it's something we want to look into.
Sure, and that also could be part of our carbon reduction strategy would include biking, and we know that we have a lot of parents that put the kids in the car and drive them to school. And we probably know that our higher poverty schools don't have bike buses because you need a parent that has the luxury, I guess, the leisure to organize. We do partner with Safe Routes to School, and a friend of mine is a coordinator and is assigned to PPS, and we could also come and have her do a presentation about what's currently happening. So we have a good sense of the landscape, and I would be interested in getting an update again. Bike to school, walk to school, great neighborhood schools that are walkable. It would be, we both have a Dutch connection here where the biking is really big. What about you, Isa? Anything on your mind? And Nora, for our next meeting?
I believe we already mentioned climate policy for next meeting. That's my main concern. So, yeah, I think we talk about climate policy for next meeting is the main thing I'm looking forward to.
Excellent.
And I just wanted to clarify on the procedural drafting process if we wanted to include the student part within the site councils, and if there's anything that I'd need to bring up now in order to make that happen, or how that works.
Would you want to draft something for us to consider adding? Because it comes through the policy, it also goes through a legal review.
Yeah, who should I email that to, and when should I
You can
email
email
that?
to me and
Okay.
I'll share it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for thinking about that. So climate policy is top of mind. I was just reviewing the goals. The goals are 50% reduction in carbon emissions by I'm going to get this wrong. PPS will reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030. We are not on track. Using the 2018-19 school year as the baseline, and then reach net zero emissions by 2040. We are not on track for that either. But we're getting there, and we're further ahead than we were, and we have a climate policy which at the time it was developed was kind of like, state of the art. So I'm glad that you're interested in that. That's my line of work as well. So I love talking about climate. So I think if we have nothing else, I think we're adjourned.
Oh, I have one more thing I wanted to bring up.
Sure.
Sorry. I brought this up in a couple of different places. I would like to look at elementary, middle school lunches because, and I was doing some research on New York City. Apparently, New York City has done some work on making lunches more vegetarian friendly, which is also more environmentally friendly. And PBS's lunch schedule regularly has days, multiple days in the week, that there is no vegetarian hot lunch offered, and that the option is a peanut butter and jelly or a yogurt. And the yogurts are very high sweet yogurts. And so, sort of in following the New York City and other districts or other schools and other nations move towards offering vegetarian lunches, I would love to just have a conversation about this because you know, we're hearing from both of our students, or at least one of our students, saying we want to talk about carbon reduction and environmental quality stuff. And there's no debate about the link to CAFOs, confined animal feeding lots, and high produce meat and the environmental. So I would like to have this conversation because I think we're missing an opportunity to make our students healthier and our lunches healthier and more environmentally sound.
Thank you. I will say that at one point the city of Portland was looking at regulating meat consumption, and we decided, pretty quickly against that. So just, you can't tell people what to eat, but I like the idea of studying, agriculture's impact on the environment and on our bodies is very, is relevant. So thank you. I'll add that to this growing list of topics. I appreciate that. If there's nothing else, I think we're adjourned.
Thanks, all.